we say, Holly, that if you know somebody who we should be talking to, that you reach out to us and say, you need to talk to insert name here.
Yeah.
And our friend Riley had said, Johnny, Holly, there is somebody that you need to talk to. And Janet is phenomenal. And so it took all of 7.5 seconds for us to try to get into contact with her. We finally made this happen. She is the president and CEO of Joy Smith Foundation. And Janet Campbell, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Great to be here. I'm glad you connected.
Well, we are too. But
give us a half hour.
Oh my goodness.
There is so much that I want to dive into because Holly, we've talked a lot about human trafficking and sex trafficking in the past. Yeah. We've had a lot of guests, and it really is one of those things that I don't think in some ways we could talk enough about.
Yeah, it happens. It's prevalent. It can be under someone's nose and they don't even realize it. And there's different ways that traffickers are at work in our cities.
Yeah, so we will dive into. There's so many questions, but Janet, I got our skill testing question that we like to ask everybody is, who are you and where did you come from?
Well, I'm actually the oldest daughter of the namesake of the foundation, Joy Smith. And so we are now 3 generations in our foundation. Our family has been touched by the issue of human trafficking for many years. We were first introduced to the issue when my mom was a teacher, actually. She had a student in a grade 9 class, and they were trafficked. And that was kind of the start of our introduction into this issue. And over that time, it's intersected with our lives in many ways. But it has been an issue that has been on our heart. And once you do learn and know, you can't look the other way. And there's a responsibility that you have to do what you can. And so we started the foundation actually back in 2011, but professionally, I have been in business. And so I was a senior business executive traveling all around North America, looking after teams, working with Fortune 500 companies, and doing this and supporting my mom in my extra time. And we would often connect. I spent a lot of time in Ottawa, and we would often connect there. And now I am delighted to be able to dedicate 100% of my time to this issue.
Did you think all these years later that you would have a bigger involvement like you do? Or did you think that, nah, you know what, that's kind of my mom's thing. I'll be in it, but not fully in it?
Yeah, it is definitely something that has just evolved, and you never know what doors will be opened for you. And really, it just was kind of a matter of timing. It wasn't by design, but there was a real need with what was happening in the foundation in terms of its growth, to be able to really address the issues and the demand that we have for the services that we provide. And so it was just one of those things. It was not by design, but you know, when God's getting your attention, you you listen, and trying to be a faithful servant here, and you know, just follow that calling.
Growing up, was that in Ottawa or was that in Winnipeg where you are now?
Actually, we grew up in Winnipeg. Yeah, so Winnipeg is home. But my mom went on to be a parliamentarian. And so she kind of had a second home in Ottawa. As a parliamentarian, so you would think, how do you go from being a teacher to being a parliamentarian? And she will first to tell you that she is not a good politician, but she has a real heart for the issue, and she's very passionate about it.
Hmm.
And in fact, she's a Canadian history maker. My mom, we're very proud of the work that she's done in this area. In Canadian history, she was the 15th parliamentarian to amend the Criminal Code of Canada. And that was on Bill C-268, which imposed minimum sentences for somebody that buys and sells a child. Before that, there was no law in Canada for that, if you can believe it.
Wow.
But she actually went on to become the only parliamentarian in Canadian history to ever amend the Criminal Code of Canada twice. And she did that when she passed her second bill, C-310, which allows Canada to extend its long arm into other countries and bring people back that are Canadian that do this and prosecute them here. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible. As a PK parliamentarian kid, um, often we think of like pastors' kids, but
Yeah.
did you feel any pressure when your mom went into the political realm, or were you just already well into your career for business that you were just super proud of what she'd accomplished?
Yeah, I'm super proud of what she's done and, the issue and the work that she's done. And certainly that work has come over time with pressure against her and us as a family.
Hmm.
And that continues to happen, quite frankly, in the work that we do at the foundation. We do have people that will push against the work of us trying to protect youth from being trafficked. And so it's just part of what you sign up for, and you can't focus on that. You have to just be centered and grounded in your faith and move forward with what you know is right to do.
You've mentioned faith a couple different times. Was faith a big part of your guys's family growing up?
Yeah, definitely. It was very much a very big part of my upbringing, and certainly our family does have a very strong faith, and it is something that as we go through different things in our life, it's certainly something that carries us through a lot of trials and tribulations, and also there's been times where we've looked at things and we've thought, how are we going to do that?
Mm.
Hmm.
And it seems impossible. And, you just kind of, you move ahead and you do have faith and you do the best that you can. And there have been really things happen that were far beyond anything that we could have imagined or expected. And so, yeah, we just continue to try to do that on a daily basis.
When it comes to how the Joy Smith Foundation started, you'd mentioned your mom was a teacher, and there was a kid, grade 9, who was being trafficked. How did she discover that this was what was happening?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think, teachers get a great visibility to the students in their class.
Mm.
Um, and it was just really through the close connection that she had with the student that she had visibility and awareness that there were challenges there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was her first introduction. And back in that time, it wasn't really called human trafficking, and there wasn't the same understanding maybe that there is today, but yeah, it was really it really started a series of different things that fast forward now, here we are with a foundation that we continue to work and be dedicated to the issue, and 3 generations. So my own daughter took her criminology and psychology, and she was going down a law enforcement path.
Hmm.
And with that, she just has basically been born into this, quite frankly, because this has been part of the work of our family since before she was born. So she doesn't really know anything differently, but she has this amazing gift for programming and working with survivors and supporting them in their journey of healing. So she has an amazing gift. And so, yeah, she's been dedicating her time to doing that kind of work.
I think one of the misnomers that we have, though, and we brought to light in the fact that, I mean, this is something that happens in Canada. This is something that happens in North America. I mean, automatically years ago, even getting into radio, we would do radiothons for kids in developing countries. But this is actually things that happen each and every day in our own cities.
Absolutely. So from where we are all sitting right now, I can tell you within 1 kilometer, somebody is being lured. So it is so prevalent. It is the fastest growing criminal enterprise, and it is second in size only to guns and drugs. And so if you kind of pause and consider that for a minute, this is absolutely prevalent. And it isn't in another community or another family. This can happen to any household. We have worked now on over 7,000 cases with survivors and their families. And what I can share with you from our experience is that when people have been affected, they will come in and it will be like, they'll say, we just didn't know. We had no idea. We just didn't know. And we didn't understand what was happening. And yeah, it happens in all kinds of families and all kinds of circumstances, all different communities and social backgrounds and economic situations, and it does not discriminate. It's an extremely profitable enterprise for these criminals to traffic another human being. They make in excess of $280,000 per victim per year when they do this. So some of these organizations have multiple victims and organizations across communities and around the world. And yeah, it's a very serious business to them. And with the prevalence of online usage, especially following COVID more now than ever, it's a real easy way for predators to connect with and start the process of luring and grooming our kids.
That's some serious stats there. It's nice to pretend that it doesn't exist here in Canada, but it's so prevalent. And I think I'm a mama bear of 2 girls. Johnny's a daddy bear of, a son and a daughter. And it's one of those things where what do we do as parents to protect our kids, to help them? So what are some of those things that you would say that we should watch out for, or some of the warning signs we should alert our children to?
Yeah, such a great question. So one of the opportunities as a parent is, first of all, to be informed. So have the awareness. And people can go to our website at joysmithfoundation.com, and they can go into our education center and access free resources that will help them to learn about how trafficking happens, what predators do, and they'll learn quite a lot about human trafficking in our own communities just by looking at those free courses. We also, on that website, have access to a section for seeing the signs. And what that does with our trafficking signs campaign is it identifies 9 different signs that can be indicators that something is going on from a grooming or luring standpoint. And I can give you an example of some of the signs is if parents are paying attention to change in their child. So that could be change in their appearance. It could be change in their attitude. maybe towards their family or school. It could be that they see grades are dropping. Changes are indicators that something can certainly be happening. One of the most common ways in which traffickers will connect with youth is either through a friend or in a girlfriend boyfriend type of scenario. So one of the things they can do is they can really pay attention to new relationships, new friendships, and new romantic relationships in particular. And that's another sign. If friend or boyfriend will do is they will shower them with gifts, and slowly they will start to, and I shouldn't even say slowly because it can happen actually very quickly in the blink of an eye, but what will happen is they'll separate them from their support systems and create that wedge between their family. And so often this plays out as people are thinking, oh, my kid's just going through a bad phase, or whatever else, and these can be things that they can pay attention to. But if they go to our website and they visit seeing the signs, they can learn more about that.
I'll be honest, I thought you were going to tell me social media, and I was going to easily just be like, here's the thing. My kids aren't going to be on social media. I don't have to worry about it. But when it's friends and things like that, that's a lot tougher.
Yeah.
Well, I spoke with a teacher the other day, and they had actually an individual that was collecting phone numbers from the female students in the school and sharing those numbers with another young man. And that young man was using those numbers to reach out and connect with these girls. So it definitely happens in person, but online is a very easy way. Definitely parents and children need to learn about online safety. There are some real easy ways in which you can protect yourself when you're online. So knowing who you're actually connecting with. Young kids can have a tendency to accept a friend request from somebody new just because they see that person's connected to another friend that they know. So it gives a little bit of a false sense of security. Also, these social apps will have tracking, location tracking on them. There's so many ways in which you can easily become informed and aware of how online can be used as a mechanism for predators to connect with youth, and so they can be protected and empowered.
As a mom, you know all of these things. You definitely have been a part of this world to protect, young girls, young boys too. Um, did it make you a nervous parent, or did it help you feel empowered as a parent?
Yeah, I think it's important that we approach this from a perspective of being informed, and not approaching it from a place of fear. I think one of the things that we always talk about here is how education is our greatest weapon. And knowledge is definitely power. And so being informed and making sure to have good conversations with your kids, because that is the most common thing that we hear, is that they just didn't know what it looked like. They didn't understand that was happening. It happened so quickly. There are cases where an individual met somebody online and they went to meet them in person. And then, it turns into something different. And there's a lot right now that you can really do to protect your communities and protect your loved ones from this happening.
Growing up for you, I mean, your mom was a big part of the Joy Smith Foundation. Of course, it's the namesake. And then it is one of those things too, where now you're growing up and you're exposed to this whole other part of our society. For you, was that just almost like a mission field? Is that like the perspective that you would have taken on it, or was it
Mm.
almost something maybe you didn't want to get involved with, hence the business side of things?
Yeah, so again, I feel like our family was introduced to it. I don't want to say by accident, but this issue came to our path. And once and as you learn more,
Hmm.
you just have a responsibility. And so, yes, it's very much a mission. It's something that very much is on our hearts. We have worked, as I mentioned, with over 7,000 files. And so we have seen what this does to the lives of a child and the family connected with this child as well. And it forever changes
Mm.
their life. And somebody who experiences this, they have trauma and PTSD. They may have medical and physical things, and they may have had disruption to their education. There's just a whole host of challenges that come forward when somebody has been victimized. And I'm very motivated to protect our kids and do what we can so that people do know and people do have the opportunity to get informed. And I'm inspired by the survivors and the families that do come through our door, because they demonstrate such courage and resilience. And really, they're just amazing in their strength to be able to recover and heal. It's a challenging journey, but we do use that to inspire us every day with the work that we do.
What does that healing process look like? Is there something that you guys have set up, or is there I'm not saying necessarily a script to go by, but something to help those who have been through this?
Yeah, well, one of the things we definitely have programming for survivors that come through our doors. And part of that empowerment programming is helping them to shed some of the shame or blame they may feel about the circumstances they were in. And this is something that they were victimized and they were preyed upon, and it is not their fault. And yet, when we meet with them, it is part of what they wrestle with is the sense of shame or blame that they put on themselves. And so that's something we definitely work with in our programming. Their healing journey may need a variety of things of counseling, medical care, addictions recovery, because often drugs are introduced into this mix. So they may need those types of things. So we provide the support and the connection for these survivors to navigate the various resources that may be available to them, so that they can get this care. And then other really practical things that we work with them for programming is for economic empowerment, so that they can be independent and move forward with providing for themselves. And it's a real barrier. It's a real obstacle. It's amazing the things that we will take for granted in our everyday life, like having identification and
Mhm.
like having a checking account. And these are very sort of basic things that you don't think about, and we see as very big obstacles and hurdles for the survivors that we work with when they first come into some of our programming. So Yeah, it's an incredible, it's a lifelong journey. What I will say though is that there are so many wonderful examples where individuals have healed and they go on to live very full and productive lives. We have one survivor who is in the process of getting her master's degree. I think of another one that pops into my mind who is married now with kitties of her own. So we have others that come back and they work with us in our programming. So they help to inform our programming. They help to work in peer groups with other survivors. And so it's amazing to see what can happen, but it's an incredible journey to heal and restore. And that's why we put a lot of emphasis on protection. And we put a lot of emphasis on mobilizing communities around this issue. We want absolutely everybody to know. And we want absolutely everybody to understand what the facts are. And they'll be able to look at situations differently and be empowered to protect their loved ones and their families.
Seeing the ugly part of our society, I know you've talked about your faith and being strong and it's helped you get through, but were there any times where it just made you angry at God that this could still happen?
There's no question that it's very heavy on my heart. I do have a very strong faith, so I personally don't feel angry at God with it, because I know that there are forces that will push against us, and I know that we all have free will, and that's a wonderful thing. I have met certainly with survivors that have been very angry that this is something that has happened, and they, are having trouble just really coming to terms with that. And it's just a process of recovery that they go through. But it's not to say we don't have days that are hard, and it's not to say that there aren't days where you just kind of have to pause and kind of regroup yourself, either because it's heavy on your heart or because you're so mad that you want to just, get out there and go find somebody.
Yeah.
And, but you can't do that. And so there's far more constructive ways that we can go about doing this. And yeah, it's just something that I find that faith really helps to quiet the noise and the angst and the fear, and all of these kinds of things that come across in a daily life, because we have those moments like anybody else does. So
We talk about it in the hills and valleys of life, where we ask that question, why me? Why are you using me in this way? Or why am I having to go through this? Can you think, whether it's for yourself or for your organization, your foundation, of a moment where you would ask that question, God, why me?
yes, I think there have been several moments where we've gone, why?
Mhm.
And then, again, it's part of having faith and moving forward as best as you understand to do so. And doors are opened. And so, I think about, for example, sometimes necessary endings and stuff like that have to occur in order for you to be open to maybe what you are able to do in a more impactful or necessary way. So I just I believe that there are going to be times where you come up against obstacles or things will happen and you won't understand. I've personally had my own journey with cancer, and at the time of the diagnosis, you can look and say, well, why me? And I think all of these journeys help prepare you for the path that's ahead, but also it's helping to place people in your path that you need to connect with in one way or another. And so I have confidence in that, and try to pay attention to it as best as I can and understand to do so on a daily basis. But I ask why me a lot. and why this and why
Yeah.
that. I ask that a lot, but I do get grounded in my faith, and that's what quiets the concern, or the sense of stress, just having the faith.
Last one for you. How can we get involved? Is there a way that just us common folk, myself and Holly and others, where they can be a part of what you guys are doing?
Yes, thank you for that question. We absolutely want to grow people that are engaged and inspired by this issue and helping to push the message out into communities and empower communities. So there's a number of ways you can get involved. If people go to our website at joycesmithfoundation.com, there is a section there for getting involved. There's a wonderful annual event that we have every year. I love it. It's one of my favorite and I think most impactful opportunities for people to get involved, and it's called Joy in Action. And it combines raising awareness and mobilizing communities on this issue around fundraising for necessary funds that we have for programming. So all of the services we deliver to survivors and all of the programming that we do around prevention, we in-service police officers, and we work with the court systems, and we work with teachers and youth. All of this work that we do for free. We never want our services to be a barrier for somebody to access. And so we provide those for free, and we fundraise in order to be able to do that. And so Joy in Action is a wonderful blend of a community mobilizing and saying, hey, we are bringing attention to this issue in our community. It's not welcome here. Thank you very much. And it raises funds for our organization. So that's one way that people can get involved.
That's amazing. Well, joysmithfoundation.com. Janet, this has been incredible. You guys are doing incredible work, and we're so thankful that you could take some time and share it with us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to connect and just share some information. It was a real pleasure.
Well, if you enjoyed what you heard today, like, subscribe, and check out more of our YouTube videos.
Don't forget to follow us on all the socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and faithstrongtoday.com.